hearing about them, but I can't get away from them. They're everywhere, in my face. Look, Kyle, we just kind of don't care about some dumb prince and his stupid...
Trying to make ourselves into a brand just turned us into products. We don't need to be a brand, do we?
It's so funny, too, that you keep calling me Megan. You know, it's Megan now.
God damn it, now the prince is playing polo on the lawn.
We are here because privacy is a basic human right. How many more princes and his wives have to live in this nightmare?
This woman looks to me like a malignant narcissist. This woman has zero self-awareness.
I love that your eyes are sparkling right now. You know, Megan, how are you today? Which, by the way, I just have to say, yes.
Enjoy them.
I forgot to have fun. You're right. You're right.
That 2-hour podcast that I just had to sit through with Jamie Keen Lima, who is also very cut off from the rest of the world.
Down with the monarchy! We deserve our privacy!
Nobody saw the punchline coming because Meghan Markle's Paris Fashion Week appearance was supposed to look like a comeback, until the whole moment started feeling less like a triumphant return and more like the opening scene of a joke. The cameras were rolling, the fashion crowd was watching, and the image machine was ready to go. But instead of the roaring reaction expected from a major celebrity comeback, there was something far more uncomfortable: silence. Cold, expensive silence. And then came the part Meghan probably never planned for, the moment that silence became the joke itself. When South Park turned the scene into comedy gold, the entire image surrounding the Paris appearance suddenly looked different. Their parody, Respect Our Runway, took the glamour, empowerment, victimhood.
Okay.
Trying to make ourselves into a brand just turned us into products. We don't need to be a brand, do we? If it's truly what we want, then we really can get away from it all. No more magazines and Netflix shows. We really can live a normal life. Yes, I'm sure you agree, darling. We can be the people we talked about being, with no more worries about how we look or the image we project to people. What matters is what we have on the inside.
The Sussexes have copped it from comedian Colin Just on Saturday Night Live. He's showing that one of the conditions of Trump's new trade deal with the UK is that Harry and Meghan have to go back. It's pretty cruel, Kinsey.
Look, there's no way President Trump would have...
Wow, I know. Yeah. You just have to prove, like you have the proof that you're proving that you can prove the proof. It's divine intervention that God brought you to this podcast today. Want some pretzels? I put them in a bag myself. These pretzels are divinely ordered. The pretzels of Sussex.
And carefully polished celebrity image associated with Meghan and flipped it back through the sharpest kind of satire. It wasn't simply funny. It was brutal because the joke exaggerated what critics already believed was sitting underneath the surface. This wasn't really about fashion anymore. It was about exposure. South Park didn't just mock Meghan Markle. They presented a distorted mirror of the public image surrounding her, making the contrast impossible to ignore. And suddenly, the question wasn't whether she could command attention. It was what kind of attention she was actually getting. Paris Fashion Week was supposed to be her grand re-entry into the cultural elite. The Netflix cameras were gone and Spotify was history. But Meghan still had one major asset left: image. Every step.
Of course, our focaccia bread isn't complete without our flour sprinkles. Flour sprinkles! You know you've made it when you've acquired a huge fan base of bullies. Hashtag Sussex Squad.
Could it be? A mystery for the ages.
Welcome to my garden. Well, it's not my garden, it's a set actually, but welcome to my set.
The world expected a comeback. What it got instead was a cartoon.
Hey.
Did you know it's cold in there?
Yeah.
Must be an American thing.
It's not.
But wait, watch this. Amazing, right? This might be the smallest palace I've ever been in.
An apartment, so.
Yes, an apartment palace, I know that.
Is this a wrinkle I see in my blouse? Who the ironed this? I told you to iron this shirt 10 times. It looks like you only ironed it 9.
Using our brand.
All right, and I do see you're in our database, but you didn't first get help at this Cumhammer location?
No, my wife went to one in California as a child.
Ah, okay, then you must be in the national system. Oh yeah, is this you? Sorority girl, actress, influencer, victim.
Yeah, that's totally me.
Okay, I see. And then you added your husband to your friends and family account. You must be the Royal Prince Millionaire World Traveler victim.
That's right.
Every wave, every smile appeared ready to become part of a carefully controlled comeback story. She wanted headlines that said, Meghan returns in style. Instead, the internet started producing a very different reaction. Is she okay? And when the applause didn't arrive with the force people expected, social media rushed in to fill the silence. Thousands of clips and reactions began circulating, replaying the awkward atmosphere and turning one fashion appearance into an online conversation she couldn't completely control. Then the comparisons started flying. It's giving South Park, one user wrote, and Trey Parker and Matt Stone made sure the comparisons suddenly felt even harder to ignore.
Meghan Markle, they've just learned the hardest of lessons, which is, if you start a brawl, do not be surprised if you end up getting punched twice as hard. In fact, South Park has just knocked them out.
They nailed it. They nailed it.
I think he goes on to say, so you wrote a book talking about your family. Does that not make you a journalist too? And then they kind of stare at each other like a dumb.
Hey, lowly cameraman, come over here and try some fried chicken. Try the fried chicken. Try the fried chicken. We need to make it look like I actually care about my camera crew. Come get some fried chicken. Act like you're having fun. Act like you're having fun.
Stay home to feel welcoming. Do you feel welcome? Does my soundstage welcome you? Mindy and I are such great friends, like besties. Like, I love her. Like, she doesn't know my name, but we're best friends.
Their parody wasn't simply attacking Meghan for being famous. It was taking aim at the carefully constructed public persona surrounding her. It mocked an idea of authenticity that critics had long viewed as overly scripted, something that could supposedly fall apart with the wrong camera angle or the wrong reaction. The humor worked because satire can take a serious public image and push its contradictions to an absurd extreme. When South Park aired the parody, it wasn't Meghan they created. It was a mirror, and that reflection was uncomfortable because it turned the polished celebrity narrative into something viewers could laugh at instead of simply accepting. South Park has roasted celebrities before, but this time it hit differently. Meghan's public image had become deeply connected to competing narratives. The misunderstood Duchess, the brave survivor, the outsider challenging the crown, and a carefully managed story that critics believed had been polished by public relations and amplified through sympathy.
And look, South Park is known for satire and for mocking people. No one is safe. This isn't the first time they've done an episode on the royal family, but this particular episode was quite scathing in the grains of truth that it held. And I'm not sure how the Sussexes are taking it. Obviously, it is a cartoon.
Meghan's podcast has fallen off the charts. She's been criticized for the content. There are rumors that her As Ever launch wasn't as successful as she considered it. Critically, With Love Meghan was not a success.
I thought we were moving forward, Meghan. Well, we're not.
Dad, do you have any cash for a cab? Oh, look, Grandma's on the money. I never noticed that before.
Babe, time to do our daily $250,000 sponsored Instagram post for Del Taco.
I shouldn't have left the made-up nonsense.
But satire has a strange way of attacking anything that depends heavily on being taken seriously, and that's exactly why the parody landed so hard. In roughly 10 minutes of animation, the joke compressed years of carefully managed public perception into a few exaggerated moments. They didn't need to invent scandals. They simply reflected the contradictions that had been sitting in plain sight. The suit's paycheck was never the real story. The bigger story was the image Meghan Markle built around herself. And South Park knew exactly where to hit. The privacy complaints, the endless interviews, the empowerment message, and the constant effort to control the headlines created a contradiction that became almost impossible to ignore. Then came the mansion lifestyle and the carefully polished attempts to appear relatable. And suddenly, the whole thing looked like one giant branding exercise. South Park didn't defame her. They deflated the image. Every time Meghan reappears, the public conversation seems to shift. One week, she's presented as a humanitarian. The next, she's a businesswoman. And then suddenly, she's a lifestyle personality posing for cameras like she's launching a political campaign. The character changes depending on the moment, and that constant switching became part of the joke. That is where the South Park parody hit a nerve. Instead of treating the public persona as something fixed, it turned Meghan into a moving target. Different outfits, different voices, different attitudes, and different versions of herself depending on who's watching. It was harsh, absolutely, but satire is supposed to exaggerate what people already recognize. The bigger point wasn't simply Meghan herself. It was how celebrity branding works now. Authenticity isn't always judged by what someone says. Audiences often judge it by whether the public image stays consistent. And Meghan's challenge, according to her critics, is that she keeps reinventing the presentation faster than some viewers can decide which version they actually believe. South Park didn't just mock a duchess, they mocked an algorithm, one seemingly programmed to chase attention at almost any cost. That made the joke bigger than one person because it targeted the entire machinery behind modern celebrity culture. The carefully planned appearance, the perfectly timed interview, the lifestyle launch, the dramatic comeback, everything becomes content. Paris Fashion Week was supposed to reboot Meghan's public life, but instead of becoming the applause moment, it became a turning point. Balenciaga gave her a front-row position that seemed designed to create a global splash. Instead, online reactions focused on whether the appearance felt awkward, overdone, or simply out of place. Some fashion observers and commentators questioned whether her presence felt more like influencer culture than true fashion icon status. And that's where South Park's timing became especially effective. They took the uncomfortable atmosphere surrounding the appearance and turned that silence into their main weapon. In the parody, the crowd doesn't need to boo. They simply stare. And for someone whose public image depends heavily on attention, that can be even more uncomfortable. Silence isn't always neutral. Sometimes it signals indifference, and indifference can be far more damaging to a celebrity than outright criticism. South Park didn't need to turn Meghan into a cartoon villain. They only needed to exaggerate the idea that she was trying desperately to remain relevant, and that was enough to make the joke land. The parody worked because it played with an irony critics had already been discussing for years. Meghan and Harry have repeatedly spoken about wanting privacy while also choosing highly public platforms to discuss their experiences. That tension has become one of the most recognizable parts of their public story. You can argue for privacy while still telling your story publicly, but audiences will naturally notice the contradiction when those two goals collide. And that's the heart of the satire. You can't claim to hide from fame while chasing it. You can't lecture about dignity while monetizing trauma. From the very beginning, the strategy seemed obvious. Talk about privacy while staying firmly in the spotlight. And South Park's writers knew exactly how to turn that contradiction into a punchline. They didn't need to invent some wild new storyline. They simply took the public arguments surrounding Meghan and Harry, pushed them to an absurd level, and let the contradiction speak for itself. When a character screams, "We just want to be normal," while traveling around the world under constant media attention, the joke lands because viewers already understand the irony. The point wasn't that wanting privacy is impossible. The point was the gap between saying you want a quiet life and repeatedly choosing massive public platforms to tell your story. That's the part Meghan's critics say she never fully understood. Privacy isn't supposed to be a performance. It's a choice. And when someone keeps choosing the stage, the cameras, the interviews, and the headlines, audiences are naturally going to question where the private life ends and the public brand begins. That's why the parody cut so deep. It suggested that privacy itself had become part of the branding, and like any carefully built brand, it was designed to attract attention, create emotion, and ultimately be sold to an audience. Before the South Park episode, Meghan still had plenty of allies and people willing to defend her public image. Hollywood remained polite. Studios were cautious. Producers were interested in her story, her connections, and the attention surrounding her. But after the episode became a major talking point, the conversation started shifting. Executives could suddenly ask a much less flattering question. Is the potential reward actually worth all the noise? Because satire has a strange kind of power. It gives people permission to laugh at things they once felt uncomfortable criticizing. Once something becomes a joke in popular culture, the social rules around criticizing it can change almost overnight. After South Park, mocking Meghan no longer felt quite as taboo to some audiences. It became part of the online conversation. Memes appeared, TikTok creators jumped in, and late-night comedians had fresh material to work with. Even commentators who had previously approached Meghan's image carefully began using harsher descriptions, such as out of touch and overexposed. It wasn't necessarily one dramatic fall from grace. It looked more like a slow unmasking, with South Park helping push the conversation into a new phase. The parody didn't create every criticism surrounding Meghan. It gave those criticisms a highly visible, highly shareable format. That's the strange thing about satire. It usually works best when the audience already senses a contradiction. South Park didn't magically convince everyone that Meghan was fake. The joke worked because some viewers already had questions about the public persona they were seeing. People were tired of the contradictions, tired of speeches about kindness followed by public disputes, and tired of seeing two wealthy celebrities presented by critics as if they were permanent underdogs. Whether every criticism was fair or not, the tension was already there, waiting for someone to turn it into comedy. The parody didn't need a long argument. It simply held up a mirror and said, "Look." And when the audience looked, many laughed. Not necessarily because they hated Meghan, but because they recognized the absurdity the parody was exaggerating. That recognition is what made the joke travel so quickly across social media. A royal statement could dominate headlines for a day, but a sharp parody could become a meme and keep circulating long after the original story disappeared. That was the bigger shift. The conversation moved away from sympathy and towards scrutiny. Viewers weren't simply being asked to believe the narrative anymore. They were questioning it, picking apart the contradictions, and deciding for themselves whether the image matched the reality being presented. Then came the irony of the Balenciaga setting. The fashion house had already faced criticism over controversial campaigns and questions about its public image. And there was Meghan, presented as a symbol of carefully curated values, sitting in the front row, while the brand itself was dealing with its own reputation problems. South Park saw the symbolism and pushed it straight into the joke. A fashion brand trying to manage its reputation was placed beside a celebrity whose own public image had become a constant subject of debate. The symbolism was almost too perfect to ignore. Balenciaga was working to rebuild trust after controversy, while Meghan was also trying to shape a new chapter of her public identity. Two PR machines moving in the same direction, both looking for redemption, both trying to control the next headline. But according to the parody's message, the audience wasn't buying the carefully packaged story. They didn't simply see fashion. They didn't simply see reinvention. They saw the desperation behind the image, and that's what South Park exposed. The collision between reputation and reality, between what celebrities sell and what people actually see. Behind the polished brand, the situation was reportedly getting much more tense. As the parody spread, talk of legal action and accusations of cruelty or sexism began circulating. But fighting a viral joke can create a strange problem. Every complaint can make the joke even bigger. The more people protested, the more curious viewers became. Clips spread, reactions multiplied, and suddenly the controversy surrounding South Park became almost as entertaining as the parody itself. People who had never planned to watch the episode were suddenly searching for it, just to understand what had caused all the noise. The harder anyone tried to control the conversation, the less controllable it became. That's the brutal lesson of satire. Once you become the punchline, you don't control where the joke goes anymore. The audience takes it, remixes it, shares it, and gives it a life of its own. One joke can become a reaction video, then a meme, then a headline. And suddenly, the original person has almost no control over the story. South Park didn't necessarily ruin Meghan's career. Instead, it exposed a question already hanging over her public image. Had the audience simply moved on, the parody worked because it attacked the gap between image and reality. Meghan's critics had questioned the constant reinvention, the carefully managed appearances, and the competing messages surrounding her public persona. Every new chapter seemed to bring another version of the brand, creating a strange situation where the audience was constantly being asked to adjust its expectations. South Park turned those contradictions into comedy. The buzzwords, the look at me energy disguised as leave me alone, and the constant attention all became part of the joke. It wasn't simply mocking a celebrity. It was commenting on how modern fame works. And that distinction matters. Satire doesn't always need to prove that someone is terrible. Sometimes it only needs to highlight the difference between what a celebrity says and what audiences think they see. Once that gap becomes funny, the audience starts noticing it everywhere. In today's media world, someone can spend months building a carefully controlled image, only to have one viral moment turn that image upside down overnight. That's why satire can be so powerful. It doesn't always destroy a reputation. Sometimes it simply changes how people look at it. South Park didn't destroy Meghan Markle. It suggested that audiences were already questioning the version of Meghan the old publicity machine was trying to sell. Once people believe they can see behind the curtain, the magic becomes much harder to restore. And that's where the real damage of a parody can happen. Not necessarily in lost opportunities or cancelled projects, but in the audience's relationship with the image itself. Once viewers start questioning the presentation, every future appearance can be judged through that new lens. So the real question remains, did South Park go too far? Or did it finally say out loud what others were too nervous to admit? The answer depends on the viewer. But South Park didn't create every contradiction. It amplified them, exaggerated them, and turned them into entertainment. And Meghan Markle, once presented as the face of royal rebellion, became a character in someone else's script, a symbol of what can happen when the performance outlives the applause. If you made it this far, hit like, drop your take in the comments, and subscribe for more royal drama and celebrity stories.